In a small African village surrounded by tall acacia trees and dusty paths, there lived a young girl who was known for her beauty, but also for her pride. Every morning, villagers greeted each other warmly as they walked to the river, the farms, or the market. Greetings were a sign of respect and kindness in the village. However, this girl refused to greet anyone. When elders passed by and said hello, she stayed silent. When children waved at her, she simply looked away and continued walking. The villagers slowly began to feel hurt by her behavior. In their culture, greeting someone was not just a simple word. It was a way to show respect, unity, and humanity. Some people wondered why the girl acted this way, while others believed she thought she was better than everyone else. Still, no one confronted her directly. One hot afternoon, while walking along a dusty village path, the girl noticed a frail old woman sitting outside a small clay hut. The old woman smiled kindly and greeted her with warmth. As usual, the girl ignored her and tried to walk past without saying a word. But the old woman gently called her back. With a calm voice, the old woman explained that greetings are powerful. A simple greeting can brighten someone's day, show respect, and build strong relationships between people. She told the girl that pride can make a person lonely, but kindness can make them loved by everyone. The girl paused and thought deeply about the old woman's words. For the first time, she realized how her silence might have hurt others. Feeling ashamed but wiser, she returned to the village and began greeting people with a smile. Slowly, the villagers welcomed her kindness, and peace returned to her heart. A peaceful African village surrounded by green trees and dusty paths, people lived like one big family. Every morning, villagers greeted each other with smiles and warm words before starting their daily work. The farmers walked toward their fields, women carried clay pots to the river, and children ran happily through the village. Greetings were an important part of their culture, showing respect, unity, and kindness. However, there was one young girl in the village whose behavior was very different. She never greeted anyone. Whenever she walked through the village paths, she kept her head high and ignored the people around her. When elders greeted her kindly, she stayed silent. When neighbors smiled at her, she simply walked past them without a word. Because of this, many villagers began to feel hurt and disappointed. In their culture, greeting someone was a basic sign of respect, especially toward elders. Some villagers whispered to each other about the girl's strange behavior. Others wondered if she thought she was better than everyone else. Even the children noticed her silence and felt uncomfortable around her. Despite their feelings, the villagers chose not to argue with her. They believed that one day she would understand the importance of kindness and respect on her own. Instead of responding with anger, they continued to greet each other warmly and kept their peaceful way of life. Deep inside, the village elders hoped that life would one day teach the young girl an important lesson. They believed that sooner or later, she would realize that pride can create distance between people, while respect and kindness can bring hearts closer together. One bright afternoon in a quiet African village, the sun was shining warmly over the dusty paths and clay huts. Birds were singing in the tall acacia trees, and villagers were busy with their daily work. Some women were returning from the river carrying clay water pots, while farmers slowly walked back from the fields. The young girl who was known for never greeting anyone was also walking along the dusty village path that day. As usual, she walked proudly, looking straight ahead and ignoring the people around her. Many villagers noticed her, but they simply watched silently as she passed by. As she continued walking, she suddenly saw an old woman sitting outside a small clay hut near the path. The old woman looked weak and tired, but her face carried a gentle smile. Her clothes were simple, and she leaned slightly on a wooden stick for support. When the girl came closer, the old woman looked at her kindly and greeted her with warm words. Her voice was soft but full of kindness. She expected at least a small response from the girl. But just like always, the girl ignored the greeting and tried to walk past without saying anything. She believed greeting people was not important. The old woman quietly watched her for a moment, then gently called out to her again. There was something wise and calm in her voice that made the girl stop for the first time. Slowly, the girl turned back and looked at the old woman. That simple moment on the dusty village path was about to change something important in the girl's life. The wise old woman was about to teach her a lesson she would never forget. The young girl slowly stopped when she heard the old woman calling her again. There was something gentle and wise in the old woman's voice that made the girl curious. She turned around and walked back toward the small clay hut where the old woman was sitting. The old woman looked at her kindly and smiled. Her eyes were calm, full of experience and wisdom. She asked the girl in a soft voice, "My child, why do you never greet anyone in the village?" The girl remained silent for a moment. She had never really thought about it before. To her, greetings seemed unimportant, something she never cared about. She simply shrugged her shoulders and said that greeting people did not matter to her. The old woman slowly shook her head and gently began to explain. She told the girl that in their village, greetings were not just simple words. They were a symbol of respect, kindness, and unity. When people greeted each other, they showed that they cared about one another and respected their community. She continued speaking with patience. "A simple greeting can bring joy to someone's heart," the old woman said. "It can make a tired person feel noticed, and it can make an elder feel respected. But when someone refuses to greet others, it can make people feel invisible and unimportant." The girl listened quietly as the old woman spoke. For the first time, she began to understand that her silence might have hurt many people in the village. The old woman ended her words with a gentle smile and said, "Kindness costs nothing, my child, but it can make the world around you warmer and brighter." Those simple but powerful words touched the girl's heart deeply and made her think about her behavior for the very first time. Woman's words. For the first time in her life, she began to think deeply about her actions. She remembered all the times villagers had greeted her kindly and how she had ignored them without even a smile. A feeling of shame slowly filled her heart. The old woman watched her calmly and smiled with kindness. She did not speak anymore because she knew the girl was already understanding the lesson. The warm afternoon sun shone softly on the dusty village path as the girl stood there in silence. After a moment, the girl lowered her head respectfully and softly greeted the old woman. It was the first sincere greeting she had given in a long time. The old woman's face brightened with happiness, and she gently blessed the girl. With a new feeling in her heart, the girl began walking back toward the village. This time, everything felt different. When she saw an old farmer passing by, she stopped and greeted him politely. The farmer looked surprised at first, but then he smiled warmly and returned the greeting. As she continued walking through the village, she greeted the women carrying water pots, the elders sitting under the trees, and even the children playing near the huts. One by one, people smiled back at her. The village that once felt distant suddenly felt warm and welcoming. Slowly, the girl realized something important. A simple greeting had the power to bring people closer together. It created respect, kindness, and friendship among everyone. From that day on, the girl was no longer known as the one who ignored others. Instead, she became known as a kind and respectful person who greeted everyone with a bright smile. And the village felt happier because of it.